The hot 10 minutes, I walked in the morning.
Yeah.
She looked at me carrying my Yeti, and I said, why don't you sit down and get a seat?
Everybody's got a unit, you're supposed to share.
All right, we're calling the meeting to order. 5:57 and change. Public input. I'm going to, what's that? What did I say, 57? Oh, 47. Thank you.
I went down, keep one close.
Oh, there it is. Yeah. So I'm going to start out a little bit, and I just want to publicly. I sent a letter to Kevin, to Bob, and to Stephanie about how things have gone down these last 2 weeks with the member guest and the state amateur out at Lakeview. And I was out there, I played in the member guest. I was out there every day for the amateur, and I didn't hear myself or from anybody else any complaints whatsoever about the course or anything like that. In fact, everything was great and beyond great. The condition of everything, the greens were fantastic. It was clean. Everything flowed. I know you guys are out there early in the morning, rolling, mowing, doing your thing, prepping the course. You and your staff, Jason, get, from my perspective, huge attaboys for what you pulled off. Now, Eric isn't here, but I'm going to say the same thing about Eric and running the tournament. I didn't realize how much kind of hands-off. I mean, I don't know, Dan could probably speak to it better than I can. The SDGA is when it comes to these events. I mean, they're obviously running the show, but Eric's running it. I mean, he's making sure the tee times are there, the cart attendants, the club cleaners, the range ball fillers. He's got kids out there all day long, arranging the carts for patrons, making sure people are on their tee times. The service was spectacular. I don't think a tournament could have been run, or two tournaments could have been run any better than those two were done. So from my perspective, I'm speaking, they can speak whatever, but it was phenomenal. Phenomenal.
I would second that I've heard the same. I stopped out there yesterday for a bit and the other day, and that's all I've heard. And at coffee this morning, I'm hearing people that from different, that aren't really involved in golf as much, had heard the same thing. So,
Matt Johnson, who caddies on the LPGA, and he played in it this weekend. And he said this after he shoots the 77, which he wasn't very happy with. And the next morning he called me, how much rain you got? And I says, 30 points, not much. Then I texted Eric, I would check. Then I texted him back, a little over an inch. That's how much difference there was in our house. But he said, hey, the greens were magnificent. He said, I've got my line and held the line, and he's a professional at reading greens. And he said, the lines are just perfect. He said, it wasn't the line that I had the problems with. But yeah, and so coming from him, that's on the greens, that's as good a compliment as you can get.
And especially with I don't know how much you've been around, Kevin, higher end golfers, the better golfers. They are probably the most hard to please people on the planet. They're either too fast or too slow. The grass isn't cut high enough. It's cut too low. The trees shouldn't be here. They shouldn't be there. I mean, it's the most fickle bunch of people you can find. And I didn't hear a single complaint. Now, on the flip side, I played with certain guys or, in those groups, but I spotted and hung around the clubhouse too, and I can't believe the number of people that asked me, how's the projects coming? I mean, people that I didn't even know knew that we were even looking at improving the course. And, and I told them where we're at in the process and all that. So they are looking forward to making the course better. I mean, it still has room for improvement without any doubt, where we can make changes, make it more playable for the easier or the higher handicap golfer, and make it more challenging for the higher or the lower handicaps. I bet I had 10 or 15 people that I didn't know knew that we were even considering this. So the word's out, and that's a good thing, I think.
Can I add just something to it? You know, and Jason and his staff, you know, I'm out there at 7 o'clock in the morning spotting, and they're, I mean, mowing, they're, you know, they're out there, and that night, I stayed out late, they're out there mowing the fairways again. So it was just like immaculate, you know, so that everything was taken care of. Guys are taking twigs and branches off, you know, after the rain and stuff. And then you watch Eric, all the things on his plate was incredible, how he held it together.
Saturday afternoon, he's sitting on the bench out there by the clubhouse with a microphone and a clipboard, and everybody's finally off, and man, he looked like a whip pup. I can't, oh, what a long, long weekend for them, but it was good for the course, it was good for Mitchell, and good for golf, so.
Thank you very much, and I want to make sure that, number one, Eric's crew, volunteers, my crew, everybody just, there wasn't a question. It was when I asked who can come in tonight, or who can come in this night or this night, it was, everybody knew what was happening, and they just.
That says a lot about you guys and the team you have out there. I've said that before about how well you guys work together, and I'll put you up against any superintendent, clubhouse manager combo around on how well you work and play together, because that's not always the case. I mean, it can be contentious at times because there's different interests there and power struggles and stuff like that. There isn't a whiff of that. And the way you guys get along, and, you know, Eric is kind of the face of the course because everybody sees him in the clubhouse, but I know he relays stuff to you, and you're out there, you're visible and receptive, so. And believe me, if I thought things were not good, I'd tell you.
Mm-hmm.
But man, when it's time to give attaboys, this was a true test of teamwork and getting stuff done. It was awesome. All right, anything else? Public input? No, any delegations? Approval of minutes from our last, well, 2 meetings ago. Need a motion to approve. Okay, I'll move.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. They're approved. Financial reports.
Just real briefly, I mean, cemetery revenue is up slightly, not a lot, but from last year, end of July. Expenses are up a little bit, but we just kind of discussed last meeting on why. I mean, we're kind of ahead of some other things, so we're ahead of last year a little bit, but nothing's really out of line. So, does anybody have any questions on the cemetery? Golf course revenue are actually about 14,000 behind last year, end of July. I'm happy with that. Greens fees and cart rentals have kind of rebounded a little bit, so we're actually within $1,000 of last year, end of July. There again, expenses, just certain categories that were, but if you take into consideration the irrigation computer alone, that makes up that big difference that we're behind last year, so. And on the bottom line of revenue over under expenditures, one big item on there is golf carts are in there, so according to this, we're actually 17,000 behind, or more expenses than revenue, but 102,000 golf carts are in that too, so. any questions.
So we're tracking pretty close to,
I would say we're revenue-wise, I mean, considering the spring we had, being 14,000 behind last year, me and Eric have had that conversation, we're extremely happy with that. So,
should be able to break that 500,000 barrier.
that's what we're hoping for, yep.
Good.
Yep. Bills, I'll just zip through this, and if anybody has any questions,
Just the main pump and motor.
yeah,
Maybe a
the
little explanation.
The 25,000 for the pump and motor that we had, that got paid since our last meeting, since we missed one. So that was 25,000 for the initial repairs. And then down the line a little bit to replace the one motor. That was, where is that? The 6,482 was to replace the one motor that burned up after we had them repaired. And then there was a coupler that we had to purchase with that. Otherwise, I think pretty much everything else. Saw the golf carts were on here, so that.
You had your little golf course repairs, as far as the brake and the throttle, touch base on that.
So how the carts were being a little bit jumpy, we ended up repairing all them. We will actually get reimbursed from Yamaha for that.
What do you say the problem was?
It's just an adjustment. So, I mean, last time I talked to the service guy, he was apologetic up and down, and it was just an adjustment that they missed at the factory, so. And why, I don't know. It seemed like we had a little bit of them, and then we got them repaired, and then other ones. So I don't know if they were loose and they come out of adjustment or what, so.
Pretty much every car.
Yep, yep.
You know, about 5 or 6 right away, and then all of a sudden, a month in, all of a sudden, it was like every single car
Yep.
had the same issue.
Yep. But like everything else, when they are able to get them done, they're pushing them out, and maybe don't have their regular staff that's doing the quality assurance, and it slipped through, whatever. But I think here lately, I mean, I don't think there's been anything since we've done that. But Leland Van Emmerich did 6 initially, and we kind of watched him on how he did the adjustments and everything. And here about 3 weeks ago, Alex went through pretty much every cart and just did the adjustment and made sure that they were where they needed to be. And so hopefully no more problems with them. So.
So is there reimbursement, did you say, from Yamaha?
Yeah, yeah, essentially, so they didn't have to come out.
Yeah.
So they're going to give us, so they're going to reimburse us a tenth or 0.15 hours per cart to do the adjustment. And it's $95 an hour. So may come, I got to do the final list for them, but it'll probably be a couple $100. So,
Not enough for Hellcats.
no, no.
But I just wondered if we were documenting it.
Yep, yep, yep. and then there's one other adjustment that we had to do, and that would have been above and beyond that, so, I gotta get back a hold of them and find out what that ratio is and all that, and then, but they were very, very apologetic about it, and so,
Had nothing but good comments about the carts.
good.
It's all good. Real good. Yeah.
Even without hookups, it was,
Yeah.
Is ride smoother than
Oh, yeah.
the old ones?
Yeah, yeah, the suspension's good. I drove Jason's, one of the old ones on Sunday, and like a little different. Oh, wow. There's quite a bit.
I thought we sold those all to Park and Rec.
No, we kept.
I kept 2, we sent 5 to Park and Rec and 1 to the Corn Palace.
That Corn Palace one gets used, I see them running
Yep.
from one side of the building to the other.
Which I still have to bill the Corn Palace for theirs, so.
We got billed for it, for
What's-
our cards.
Yeah,
So we gotta send a bill.
yeah.
Get it, popcorn balls.
And actually, I'll be billing them for extra $330 because we got 3 boxes for ours. And I decided I only wanted 2 of them, and the Corn Palace wanted that box, so it'll be extra what the carts were plus $330, so, but not a big deal. We got that all worked out, so. Anything else on the financials? Or,
It's good.
I'll make a motion. to approve the
Thanks,
financials.
Brian.
This is it.
Need a second?
Second.
Thanks, Mark. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Approving the bills?
Aye.
Aye. Very good. Superintendent's report.
For the cemetery, was a map in there of the digital cemetery. The green line around it is the area they're working on yet. They have some, and that is all Calvary Cemetery, so, but you see how most all the rest of it is essentially done. There'll be some data input and stuff yet to do yet, but the mapping part of it is kind of coming. We've been in contact with them. They've been up a couple times to check some things and everything, and it seems like it's going along pretty well, so. They haven't given me a definite date, so they're working this in amongst some of their other projects, so. Obviously, we've had a couple of good storms, so I think we've had one since our last meeting. Just thing we got to deal with, so.
I like how you call it a good storm.
Huh?
I like how you call it a good storm.
Well,
Rain and no winds.
yeah.
It's not what you're saying when you're out there.
No. Stump grinding and filling of stumps we've been working on. Guys in the cemetery have been working on filling sunken graves. There has been a request from the Exchange Club to redo the infant section barrier. So the monument that we just redid last year with the brick, re-bricked it. Originally, the shrubs that were going around there were in the shape of a heart. We've lost some shrubs and everything. We've been talking to them about possibly replacing the shrubs or possibly doing a white picket fence around it. They like the white picket fence part of it, but, yeah, so I don't know which direction it's going to head, but we did not put anything in the budget for that for this year. Too many other irons in the pot for this year, but we had kind of told them that it's not out of the question, but if the city's coming up with half the funding for it, might have to be down the road a little bit for the fence part of it. The quote we got was like $18,000, so, and just sticking all that money into the actual monument part of it, maybe down the road. So that was the conversation on that. Community gardens, we had a request to get a link to the website, city website for that. So we'll be getting that hooked up, and we'll have not hours, fees, description of what's going on, and then we'll post on there when we get things tilled or reminders that they need to have everything cleared out by a certain day. And some of the gates have been rebuilt. Fence needs some attention, just general stuff. So
They do a nice job of keeping the soil turned in a couple unused spots there.
yeah, we'll go in just to keep the weeds down every so often. So.
Jason, on the, to the west of the military part, is that owned by the city, or is that?
Yep.
All that field out there?
Yep.
The 20 acres.
Yep.
Pardon?
The 20-acre alfalfa field.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's all the city.
Yep.
Okay, is that
That.
expansion of the cemetery
Yep.
somewhere down the land?
Yep.
Down
Yep.
the line, okay.
Actually, we're requesting for design to do that or develop that.
Okay.
So.
I just, somebody had asked me the other day.
Yep.
They went in to look for a plot, and they said, well, eventually, if you want, you can go out there,
Yep.
but they were still, they didn't know if the city owned it or something.
Yep. Yep.
So they do.
Yep. So the two areas for the future expansion is that 20 acres, and then there's almost 3 acres over by 14 T box. They'll kind of come out into that big wide open area. So.
Gotcha.
Yep. Anything else, cemetery or gardens? Okay. Golf course, I kept this pretty vague. Member guest tournament went well, as Jeff mentioned. I think everything, Eric's and the committee did a great job. And yeah, he can watch it later. So anyways, yeah, it's Eric's staff and everything, my staff, just
Good
the,
shape, and guys that
went well.
don't play, still gotta play and everything, so we still work things around people that don't play.
Yeah.
And it's, yeah.
There again, kind of already talked about state amateur. One thing I did do is I demoed a roller, and I rolled once before the tournament. I demoed it, or I used it also today without mowing greens. I talked to a couple golfers, and they said that they were shocked that I didn't mow the greens. I just rolled it. So Brad Bowie said it was slower than yesterday, but still very respectable. So.
Did you stimp it before and after you rolled? What you got?
The first time I rolled on Thursday or Wednesday. So I double cut the greens, I stimped it, and this was still fairly early in the morning, so it was a little damp, but it was stimping about 10 and a half, and then after I rolled it, it was stimping over 11. So I gained about a foot. So.
That's what it was when we were at Dell's at 100% of the time.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep. So, as I said before, my crew came in the mornings during the tournament. We had a laundry list of stuff to do in the evenings. We mowed fairways, tees. The last night we did not, but we did all the odds and ends stuff that night. In the mornings, we mowed greens, did cups, bunkers. It was a constant picking the range the whole weekend, pretty much. So it was a great effort by everybody. Again, I'd like to thank all the volunteers that helped out, from spotting and everybody that helped pick up branches. One guy from the rec center came out and helped out after the storm on Thursday. Or again, thanks to Eric and his staff. You kind of said it. I mean, his staff is the one they see first when they come in, and it sets everything off on the right foot. And it just isn't this tournament. It's been all year. So.
Makes it easy when I'm sending them out to a good product. So.
Yeah, well, and the other part of that is Eric just has good rapport with everybody, so it's been awesome working with him, so. Other than that,
With regard to the golf course,
mhm,
just a question. As you know, I play like every day.
mhm,
There's been a few times, not a few, more than a few times, going up onto number 8 tee box,
mhm,
and it looks like there's been 50 people hitting divots,
mhm,
and nobody replacing them. I mean, it's bad.
yeah.
Is there anything that we can do about that? I mean, is it,
That's the toughest part, 3, because it's the shortest, and everybody's using wedges, and that's,
Yeah.
the wedge takes the biggest divot on any club. Like, if you're on 3,
oh, but
you're
I
using,
mean, it's, I mean, I don't care, every par 3 hole out there, that's obviously a different one, but I mean,
Well, and
it's been bad out there.
Yep, and
I mean,
obviously,
it looks like they've been, my thought was they were bringing kids out there and just letting them,
yeah.
because it's like, holy, I mean, there
Well,
wasn't a single divot. I mean, and they're not huge, but they
Yeah.
could have been replaced and
yeah.
stepped down and.
Yep. So part of that problem is it's the smallest par 3 tee box. Like Eric said, you're using the shortest wedges for that. A lot of guys are just doing punch shots. So, I mean, it's kind of a laundry list of things working against it. Now, I'm not saying that somebody doesn't go out there and hit 5, 6 balls off the tee just for practice, whatever. I've seen that before out there. Not necessarily on that hole. If I saw somebody doing that on that hole particular, I would probably ask them, please, if you're going to do it, don't.
You know, we've always had issues with, I mean, like ball marks.
Yeah.
There are guys that,
Yep.
I mean, and guys I play with don't move fix the ball mark.
and all that again.
Yeah.
And typically, you know, that's something you deal with.
Yep.
But, I mean, there've been a couple of times on number 8 that it's just been.
Yep. And I have noticed here in the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, the ball marks on that green are just like they exploded. So, yeah, and sometimes it's people fixing them the wrong way, because 10 years ago, everybody just wanted them to go one way. Well, now the best way to do it is to actually go into it. So, and I see people all the time, they're fixing ball marks the wrong way. So,
There is that pot of sand there too. How long
Yeah.
would it take, say you sand a divot, I mean, 3 weeks till you come close to healing?
yeah, it all depends on how well fertilized they are. But I mean, but like the last week or so, I mean, we went around and, we had CHS came out. There again, shout out to them. We had 9 volunteers come out from CHS for,
Day of caring
they-
for United Way.
yeah, United Way. And they filled divots and raked branches, and they did the whole first part of the driving range tee for guys. So,
And it's hard, you move the tee box to one area, it gets beat up, you move it to the next area, it gets beat up. By the time you roll back to the area that got beat up at first, it's still not healed up. From this weekend, I mean, your state amateur 144 golfers, they're all golfers that take very big divots with wedges. And I'm sure this morning it was probably,
As bad as it's going to be.
yes.
yeah. So, I guess to answer your question, 3 things that can be done is build a bigger tee box, sand it more often, and just encourage golfers to either fill it with sand or replace the divots. Actually, filling with sand probably does more than actually replacing the divot, because it allows the grass to grow in faster, whereas the divot more than likely, unless if it's deep enough, is going to die anyways. So
Is there seed in the sand?
we don't, just for the simple fact of, so it's in a pot, so you put seed in there, it's going to germinate by the time, I mean, I've seen that before where it's in the bottles. You just get a little bit of moisture in there and that stuff starts germinating. So ideally, if there was seed in it and it got used in a timely manner, that would be the ideal way to do it. But the logistics of it just isn't there.
Have we ever thought about putting one of those bottles right out there on where you tee off? Only reason
Yeah.
I say that, I mean, how many people do they go back and grab a deal of sand and walk over there and put it in?
Yeah,
But one of those bottles would probably fill 10 divots. maybe.
yeah, probably. I have had before where there's a little, probably 3-gallon buckets with the lid on and everything, and we've done that before. So
I just-
at
it
other
just
golf
seems like
courses.
it's
Yep.
quite a ways away from what, you know.
Yep.
I mean, you're going back to the ball marks. I mean, when you hit onto a green, you're gonna walk right by that ball mark to get you the ball. Unless you're backing it up off the green. But, I mean, guys won't even stop and fix a ball mark when they do that. Why would they walk back away from the tee box to get a sand bottle and go fill up the divot they just made? They won't do that. You get in the cart and go to the next shot.
Yeah. I usually try and fix 1 or 2 others as I'm walking up and fixing mine, but to get people to do that, I mean, if everybody fixed 2 or 3 divot or ball
yeah.
marks, we'd have much better product. I know he gets distracted a lot by ball marks because he doesn't make any. So he goes,
So you gotta be on the green.
that's what I'm saying. His ball marks are 5 yards in front of the green, but he always ends up near the hole for some reason. But he's good about fixing other
Is it on
people.
the fairway?
No,
Oh.
no.
That's how the guy's out.
He wants to know what it's like.
Why is he picking on you, Tom?
Well, that wasn't really supposed to be a dig. That was,
Half of that was good.
yeah, see, there you go. I have had some requests from people that I played with about putting bottles on the carts. I don't know if that's something to look forward to the future for fairways, you know, more than anything.
Yeah. And there again, that's just kind of a logistical thing. I mean, is Eric's staff going to do that? Is my staff going to do that? You got to have extra there all the time. It's just an extra added duty to do. So, I mean, it's not that it can't be done. It's just,
Do you think it would be,
Got the steel round things you put where you set your tee markers.
Mhm.
That would help.
yeah.
You know, the flower pots are nice, but it is a long ways.
Yep.
Sometimes they're across. And,
Yep.
you know, once, when I'm on golf and they got where it said tee markers, almost everybody in our group, so
Does it,
the
yeah.
last guy will do it.
Yeah.
might be a good one to experiment on?
Yeah.
Because you're right, that is the worst tee box
Mhm.
for that reason. But-
Yep.
Anthony Davis probably the worst example of it ever.
I don't think anybody fixes a divot or places your back on the tee box.
No.
The divot back.
Yeah.
Just sand it.
Yeah. Sand is the best alternative.
Range, I mean, after the warm-up sessions of the state amateur, looked like the beaver pellets.
I was looking at them. It's like
Oh,
on TV. They do those, they do the long, I'm looking at all that sand there. You see that
I wish I could.
back up, I mean, they're 4 feet, you know, they just took their heads and kept looking.
If I ever had to take a Davis, he'd check it.
I mean, it's an issue probably at every single course you go to, there's no, I guess, way to fix everybody that needs to do. It's just a matter of the golfer has to take it upon themselves to fix their ball mark, put sand in it, Hopper and the divot.
I bet this week Walmart's were all fixed, weren't they?
Yeah, for the most part, yep.
There, this morning when we played, there was probably less ball marks than I have seen out there
Yeah.
in,
Usually it's your Sunday afternoon golfers that.
Yeah.
Last night I went out and I played, and I got on the back at every hole, it seemed like I had a fresh divot or ball mark somewhere near the pin, whatever, and I'm not making them, okay, so I'm facing them. I'm thinking, who would do it? I mean, right on the way to the hole, I mean, big, obvious. And so I, actually, after I got to 14, I drove over, because I was done, it was getting dark, I drove over to 16 just to see who was playing in front of me and say something. I did, I was gonna, but there was several groups and I couldn't.
Start yelling at all
I
of them.
couldn't blame anybody because there was 3 or 4 groups, it could have been 2 groups in front of me or whatever.
Oh, it wasn't from the state tournament?
None from the state tournament.
Okay, that's what I thought.
No, these were
Wow,
fresh,
that surprises me.
these were fresh and they were hitting greens, but they were not fixing them.
There is one thing I was going to do is that there's some USGA short little clips on course etiquette, and I was wanting to get kind of a rotating thing on one of the TVs in the clubhouse and just pick 3 or 4 things and then maybe some, and just cycle them through, and maybe it might get some people's attention, but there's multiple things that. So.
All right. Approval of capital equipment requests 2023.
So this is, I left this a little bit vague, but so what I requested is a 5-year lease package essentially. And that's a fairway mower, a wide area mower, I didn't have that all on there, but
can you go back?
pull behind mower with a tractor, a sprayer, a roller, a blower, and a brush. So, yep. So all said and done, hopefully we'd be able to stay within $67,000 payment for each year. And that would get us about $370,000 to $380,000 worth of equipment. By the time you figure in trades, going through this one government buying program, there's incentive that they'll rebate you back essentially part of it. And like I said, all said and done, we'd be able to get just a small portion of it for 2023. So I'd probably purchase some of those items and then actually probably wouldn't start the lease until 2024. So kind of depends on how.
Is there a balloon at the end?
It would be total just a payment. I mean, essentially this is just making payments and then at the end the equipment would be ours. So, and this is taking care of a lot of my rough mowers would be the one we got last year has some hours on it, but it would be getting rid of all the older 4000s by the time we get all these units. So it'd make that segment pretty whole. It would only be asking for one fairway mower, so that would leave me with one fairway mower with fairly high hours. The sprayer would replace one of my old sprayers. I have 2 sprayers right now, would replace one of them. This sprayer would have a bigger tank, so that'd make that area pretty good. it would be one pull behind mower, and rental of a tractor to pull it. So,
What have you been budgeting, Jason, looking the last few years for equipment?
so this last year I was budgeted 80,000 for 2 greens mowers. The year before was 30.
Little 67 number would be yearly.
It wouldn't be below 2 years ago, but it would be below what I asked for this current year. Depending on what all I can actually get, it would actually, so the first year would be paid in cash because we would have that much available. And then.
With this, you think you can get by 5 years without equipment though?
This would be pretty close, yeah. I mean, that's kind of why I structured it the way I did. Like I said, one older fairway mower,
Yeah.
One rough mower that's kind of, and I would definitely have a list of, after this 5 years, I mean, the T mowers would probably be, in 5 years would be, because they were bought used in 2019. By another 5 years, they're going to be ready.
Well, you need some new equipment.
Yep. The last fairway mower would be on that list. Probably some utility vehicles would be on that list. So, but then if those things get replaced, and then these, what we would get now would be still pretty good hour-wise. So if we could make it work and the city or council and everybody agrees with it, it would work out well. And when I come up with this number for, I mean, obviously interest rates are going up and this and that. So if they approve that amount, I'd have to try to stay within that amount. So if I got to drop a piece or something, and they might tell me not 67, it might be 60 or 55, I don't know.
Is that the kind of equipment that you could look at, or if you have looked at it, as far as leasing?
Yeah, you can. When I've looked at that in the past, the dollar amount isn't a lot less for your yearly payment. The only upside of that is in 4 years, you turn it all and you got new equipment. This is nowhere near replacing all my equipment. So, I mean, it's not even close. This is about $380,000 worth of equipment. That's probably not even half. If you were to get everything brand new, I mean, it's not even half. So,
I think what this allows you to do is, and from our standpoint, it kind of levels the payments out more over a longer period of time instead of this, oh, we need 2 new fairway mowers and 2 greens mowers and it's $150,000, and then next year you don't need anything, and then, so this way we can budget it.
yeah, the next 5 years, we know what our equipment costs are going to be, and so.
But the question, I guess, is that something the council would even consider doing, especially if they're looking to cut budgets?
Well, the one thing about this is, so when I put this together, I made sure that this comes in what our revenue projections are. I mean, it's pretty close to it. So, I mean, if being an enterprise fund, we're in a different situation than the cemetery or the parks and everything. So,
Except when he's requesting things for like a payloader
yeah.
or some
Oh,
of the other bigger items.
yep.
And
Yeah.
that's coming up in other sheets.
Yeah, yeah. I guess, yeah, that's right. In my request here, the payloader is in that also. Half of a payloader, because half would be cemetery, half would be golf course. So, so now if council rejects or the mayor rejects the payloader part of it, that's going to free up a lot of cash because if they reject it for the cemetery, obviously the golf course can't get it. So our current payloader, we've had issues with it for the last 2 years, and they don't make that site. The Komatsu doesn't make that size payloader anymore, so they're not really supporting it. Parts are through COVID, the parts are difficult to get, but it's even more difficult through them. So it's not expensive fixes necessarily, but it's just a lot of downtime. So that's the only reason why I'm asking for a payloader is because I would just assume the payloader we have would last me a long time, but we can't afford for it to be down either.
That's one thing I can't understand, and somebody can try to explain it to me, but we're an enterprise fund. We know we're bringing in typically this amount of dollars, and I know we're conservative on our numbers. How can you cut something from something you know? I mean, I understand in the general thing, because taxes change, and it could change in the golf course, but how can you cut, let's say, I don't know, $1,000 worth of fuel, for example, when you know you're going to have that money? I've never understood that process on this side of things. Cemetery, I can understand, but the golf course, I don't get it. There. Continue.
So, thank you for pointing out the payloader. I forgot that
You were trying to slide that in, weren't you?
No.
Get a new payloader.
So that payloader, by the time we would do the trade-in, would be the golf courses and the cemetery would be 50/50. The cost would be about $43,000 a piece. So, I did not break that out on here, but I mean, if you have questions, I can answer anything. So yeah, a brush, a blower, a sprayer, payloader, a roller, 2 extra sets of reels for my new greens mowers, a tractor rental for program through John Deere, pull behind mower, 1 wide area mower, and a fairway mower. So
What's the pull behind more for?
for roughs. They have one out at John Deere. It's actually got big rollers on each side of it, and we demoed one, and it doesn't scalp nothing. So it wouldn't be something we'd be taking in amongst the trees. It would be more around tees and greens and around the fairways. Those moguls that we have, it didn't scalp nothing. So it was pretty impressive. But the tractor I have, so we demoed a 11-footer, and the tractor I have, I had to have ramped all the way up, or otherwise when I engaged it, it killed it. So that was part of the request is for a program through John Deere for a rental tractor, a 60 horsepower rental tractor, because what I would want is a 13-foot wide one, and so that should cover that.
So that's PTO driven.
PTO driven, yep. So, but that would replace one of my 4,000s. Currently, I have 3, and that would replace one of them, and then the wide area mower that I probably wouldn't get till 2024 would replace another one. So that would eliminate my older 4,000s, which overheat fairly easily, and I would have one brand new one with, by the time we would get it, would be about 2,700 hours, 2,800 hours, and then this pull behind with the tractor. So
How wide a cut does your 4,000s?
11 and a half or 12, I'm not positive.
Okay.
Jason, When do we have to submit the 2023 budget?
Technically, I already have
We have.
today.
I gotta go back and work on it after the meeting.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, I'm looking for a motion to approve the capital equipment request for 2023.
Motion.
I'll second that.
Ryan? Any discussion? All in favor of approving that, say aye. Aye. On to capital improvements.
This one is for the phase 2 of the golf course. So that is phase 2.
Yeah. That's the cemetery.
Oh, did I click on the wrong one?
Don't like it.
Okay.
It's the one below that one yet. Yep.
So phase 2 was replacing, abandoning hole 12, reconstructing hole 11, and constructing new par 3 on 14th hole, including tee box on hole 15. So the dollar amount that this is actually the quote that Mr. Norby gave us plus 15%, figuring on cost increase. So the original phase 2 was 494, and this is and this isn't totally correct because the 5,000 down below, we actually pulled that out and put that in repair and maintenance. So the actual is 568. So, the one caveat to this is it probably will not happen in 2023. So we're asking for the money so that we can go forward on the bidding process and the design process of it. So the work probably won't be till 2024.
You'll have to bid it in 2023.
Yes. So we'll be bidding it in 2023, but the work probably won't happen until 2024, just because of the timeline of it. And we wouldn't want to do it until October. Well, it would be a little bit before October, but by the time we got the bid process done and everything, the likelihood that there would be a contractor available, because they've been bidding for 2023 already. So until we get into the process, but we need the money allocated before we would be able to do that process, so. So.
Any questions on that?
Well, that was in my,
So that design that you just said is what it would be, we can't deviate
No,
from
no.
that.
We still could. We could
So
modify
We
it.
could ask for the money, and then if it gets approved, then at that point, when we bid it out, we can still
We can tweak it.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's no different than building your house. I mean,
Well,
you're-
you could get into change orders.
Right. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, depending, it could cost more,
Don't kid
or
yourself, maybe we'll cost
we
you.
decide in there that there's something we didn't like or didn't want to do, then it would be less. But right now, our game plan is moving ahead with that phase 2 plan, getting the money allocated for it, and then getting it bid out, getting designs done, because what he's done is just preliminary for our purposes, and they have to have actual architects do the drainage and all that stuff too. So, yeah, and then if there's something we want different at that point, we can.
Make a motion to approve.
hold on, I got
We can
one.
still do that after a second.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
Got a motion to approve that? Is there a second? Brian? Okay. Any discussion? Now you go.
Okay, sorry. So there was a question from,
The perimeter property owner of the 20-acre alfalfa field indicated that in 2005, when he purchased this lot, the city had told him there'd be nothing there but cemetery, not a bike path, which would possibly reroute from over by 15 to follow the west and south sides of that. In other words, it end up right against their backyard.
no, the bike path.
He needs to talk to the city department, right?
He did. He's coming to talk to me tomorrow.
Yeah.
So,
Do you want the bike path or didn't?
They don't want the bike path right in their backyard.
It's gonna have a trade.
Well, either way, there's going to be a cemetery there.
yeah. Either there's going to be a road for the cemetery, more than likely, or there will be
My
a bike path.
understanding of that bike path was determined many, many years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't care whoever sold
But to
the
be
lot,
rerouted?
is not a city employee, I don't, you know. He bought that lot from a realtor, from the dealer, and it had nothing to do with the city. And the park and bike path is on city property. And if you don't like it, you know, move.
That's the only comment I have. I'll have discussion tomorrow.
Good. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Cemetery capital.
Oop.
I think we need one up from there. Number 9.
Oh.
That one.
Yeah.
Yep. There
Yep.
we go.
So this would be the payloader for the cemetery side. I guess just approving it. This is so this is the only equipment being asked for from the cemetery side, and it gives a little more description since it's a loan item. The full price of it was $113. Trade-in value of $27,000, and then cemetery share would be $43,000. So in the end, we'd be spending about $86,000 on this unit. So
And a lot less on parts.
yep. And I kind of been looking at used, not just for this payloader, but on the other stuff, and to get something with decently low hours right now is, I mean, they're getting a premium for used stuff too. So by the time you figure what we can get on a government bid price, it doesn't make any sense to me to go with used at this point in time, unless you can find a hell of a deal. And even at that, it's pretty hard to find some of this better stuff because it gets snapped up so fast. So
Need a motion to approve the capital purchase for the cemetery.
So moved.
Brian?
Second.
Thanks, Mark. Well, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Cemetery capital improvements.
So with this, there was a couple items. So for the West Cemetery expansion plan or design, of $43,000. This would be, like I said, essentially it'd be the design of it. It would be drainage and roads and just configuring everything. I guess this would be kind of not necessarily any work in 2023, just 2023 getting things figured out, see what it's going to cost, see what the plans we would want to do, see if this is a better option. The west end is a better option than going with the one over by the golf course, whatnot. So, so that's what that is.
And this is just a design, it's not the
Yep.
actual.
Yep. No work, no actual work would be done.
When are they looking where we're going to run out of lots?
What's that?
When are they looking, when are we going to run out of lots?
So-
You can move over there.
So we have some areas that have a fair amount yet, but they're a flat section, and a lot of people don't want that. Talking with Aaron Willis, the cemetery sexton, we're figuring there's maybe 10 to 15% left in the city cemetery. Well, that's going to last a fair amount of years, but we're starting to lose, the better ones are starting to get picked over, and it's just starting to be less and less. We had an instance here a couple weeks ago, a guy come in, he was looking for 4 lots, or 4 grave spots. He couldn't find one that he liked, so he bought one from one of our, still in the cemetery, but it was one of the other Calvary or military cemeteries because he couldn't find what he wanted. So it's not that we're going to run out in a year or 2 years, probably even 10 years. I mean, 100%, but eventually we will have to do one of these expansions, and it's been in the works for a couple years already, so this is just a one step towards that. So and just because we would do the plan for this year wouldn't mean that we would have to necessarily do the work the year after, but I guess that's what the hope is. I guess it's going to kind of depend on what the dollar amount is too. As anything else, you start moving dirt and putting drainage in and everything, it gets expensive quick. So the one part about the west end where the alfalfa field is we could do portions of it, wouldn't have to develop the whole section. So.
Has there been any talk in the past, I'm just throwing this out there because I just thought of it, is the new expansion, and maybe you've talked to Thurman about this because he would have more of a historical perspective, but what about making that west just totally flat for maintenance? And I'm not an advocate either way,
Yeah.
just for discussion.
Yeah. There's just a lot of people that don't like flat stones. There's a reason why our block number 1 is, some people think it's great. You mentioned it to some people and they just, So, but with cremations 5-10 years ago, I mean, cremations just keep on creeping up and up and up. So I think we've got a fairly decent sized section that's just flat stones, and not to say that we wouldn't be able to do a section in there that's just flat stones. So
I would just think the trend would be more towards, just for maintenance and upkeep, it's so much easier to just take them over.
But one thing you got to realize on that is that just because it's a flat stone, a lot of them have vase inserts. So a lot of them have vases and flowers, so you got to go around it anyway. So it's not like you could take a 13-foot mower that I'm asking for and just go over a whole section. It doesn't necessarily work that way. So there's,
Gotcha.
I understand what you're saying.
Just curious.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Any questions on that part? So the shop work, I actually requested last year to reface the front of the shop, new siding. We would spray foam insulate the part of the shop that's heated, fix some structural issues. Last year when I got it quoted and I asked for $13,500, well, costs have gone up and steel has gone up. main purpose behind this is why we're asking for it is because the front of the cemetery office was redone and it looks really good. Well, it makes the rest of it look pretty shabby, so, but not only that, like I said, there's some structural issues. We would re-insulate it and make that front, at least the front part of the shop look more accommodating. Thing on that. So that'd be $20,000. And then when we got denied for that last year, they said to re-ask for it in 2023. So not to say that we'll get it this year, but the other part is new carpet in the cemetery office and conference room. They're about $5,000. The cemetery office part is really worn, and it's actually heaving in the middle. The carpet's coming up, so. And we would probably try to do carpet like what's, not the same pattern, but the squares that are in the clubhouse, so. And I'm hoping it doesn't cost that much, but that's the general quote that I got. Hopefully we'd be able to do it for less, but, so.
Brian, I'm going to appoint you to a committee on approving carpet patterns for that.
Fine, you do what you get.
Hey,
You gotta live with it.
I'll second.
I make a motion to approve both of that.
You don't like orange, do you?
all right, so we have a motion to approve the cemetery capital improvement. Mark seconded it. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anything else for the good of the cause?
I got, Jason, is there anything going on, do we prove anything for the clubhouse? Past or? Clubhouse?
So we broke that down and we put that in the repair and maintenance
Okay.
part of the budget. So that's in my general, so I have one line item that's just repair and maintenance.
Okay.
Big chunk of that is strictly for the clubhouse. About,
And that would be for when? For 2023?
yes, yep, yep. And what the projects I was going to do is reroute the water lines that go through the attic.
Okay.
So we wouldn't have to shut or drain things back and have all the women use the men's bathroom.
Okay.
Some sheetrock repairs, fixing some of the gutters, fascia, some stuff on cart sheds. So it was kind of balled in there. Since it's separate items, we
When I
figured.
read this weekend, the covered deck area.
Yeah, painting the front side of that. And,
That,
yep,
that needs some work. in
yep,
there.
absolutely. And that's kind of.
That's part of your deal.
Yep, and if I have any money left over this year, I'll probably try to maybe paint that this fall when it cools down.
Oh, it looked like more of their stuff, there's some things in there that kind of rotted out.
Yep, so last year, where the valleys are, come down, there was leaking in that valley, and we had that done last year, I don't remember when. Yeah, so we fixed both sides, and after they tore it up, they could tell exactly why it was leaking. So that would be part two. So fixing the rot in the soffit
Yep.
part. Yep,
Okay.
yep.
And I'm making a command decision here. We're going to go back to the superintendent's report for a second to include Eric in the clubhouse report in that section.
That was my apologies for not getting my report to Angel in time. So all I've got here, rounds played, membership numbers, some scheduling stuff here coming up, and let's see, didn't have to. Just some revenue side of things that we took in for the course side of things for the state am. Rounds played, we were up 500 rounds roughly in July compared to last year, getting us up to 14,000 for the year. about 10,000 behind. I feel like we'll probably reach 24,000 rounds with what we've had here lately and what we have coming up. Membership numbers getting up to where we were last year, but at 548 total, a few less on the single adult side, a few less students, a few less family memberships. That just has to do with mainly the Fun Pass is the biggest family membership generator, so some didn't renew theirs and stuff. Punch cards were, I can't remember, revenue side, we're about even where we were last year with punch cards. A little up on punch cards this year, and that's where people will go now, is punch cards towards the end of the year, not memberships, so. Questions on membership numbers, rounds?
It's good.
Just a handout that I was getting together for just the golf course side revenue things for the state AM. Just a rough estimate from the practice rounds to what the fees will be from. Roughly, the golf course takes in $9,900, almost $10,000 from this amateur tournament. We've hosted last year. We had the women's one that was only 30 golfers. I mean, it's all based off a percentage of what the entry fee is and the number of players. And I know I counted the practice rounds. Out of the 144 golfers, there's about 57 that played a practice round on Thursday. I didn't go back as far as, say, a week, 2 weeks, and check the numbers of what people had played. There were a few practice rounds before that official Thursday practice round that actually came and played the course, say, in July, June and stuff. I didn't figure those numbers. And this practice round was just from the Thursday practice round.
One thing that isn't in here that's kind of, I think it would be interesting to know, nothing that you could do, but how many people that came to play in this tournament stayed here in Mitchell? You know, and I don't think enough people realize how many people stay at, you know, they think, well, okay, we got the South Dakota amateur tournament here, but how many people
Actually stayed.
that stay overnight, that travel here and do all that would be, I think it'd be amazing.
Not figure it out,
amazed
but
how
I
many
could
people
talk
stay.
to the STGA guys, and they should. I mean, they talk to those players enough that they might have a
Well, it's
somewhat of
just
a head count.
It'd be
general
nice to
idea.
have that to go out to other people,
Mhm.
you know, the
You'll have to
council.
fill a report out for that kind of.
Yeah,
for
so
the-
I'll have to
for
get
the
It will be.
authority, so.
Okay.
Anybody who came from West River, it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
That's what I mean, yeah.
Maybe Sunday.
I was amazed that, I watched, there's a group from the Macy mock yesterday, and 3 girls and 3 dead mothers walking, and 3 dads caddying and pushing. And so, the younger the kids that they got, you know, making money on their walk, all of a sudden mom and dad's with them, so you know they're staying, you know, 3 people in town. Yeah.
Eric, does the state provide concessions for that, or is that solely through you?
Solely through me, and then we provide complimentary donuts, bananas, apples,
Okay,
rolls,
but-
juice.
The coolers out on the course?
That's
a bad deal.
that's a bad deal, but it's at every state event. That's just part of the contract, the pro form that we agree upon, that it says right in it.
I wouldn't let them sell them on 1 and 10. I said, come on, guys, go for them.
Those-
11 and 2.
Those are
So
for,
when they're walking around, they're going to the driving range, they're walking up grabbing 2 water from the driving range, you know.
Well,
it's for, those waters are for players only technically, so obviously any spectators have to pay for stuff inside.
Here's what I
It
noticed.
says the SCGA will provide coolers of water for contestants stationed at various locations around the course. So it's just, I mean, it's at any SCGA state event. It's just part of the
This is the last one that we hadn't hosted that I know of, and since I've been in Mitchell. And I think we got them all. And here's what I noticed from this one. The one that took a hit was Eric. I didn't see anybody sticking around drinking. I didn't see anybody, afterwards. I didn't see anybody eating a lot. I mean, they're young, they're grabbing the fruit, the free rolls that are in the clubhouse. You take the seniors and you take the couples, they're probably the two most lucrative ones for the clubhouse. They all got their groups, they all sit down and have a beer or two and a burger afterwards, and they're fun. And these guys are really competitive. If they had a bad round, they're to the practice green, they're to the driving range, every time I was in the clubhouse, I didn't see anybody buying anything. I watched them come to the tee boxes, and almost 100% of them grabbed 1 or 2 waters out of the cooler.
And on that note, there was a couple times, Friday and Saturday, I was myself overstaffed in the clubhouse. I didn't know what to plan for, and I had 3 or 4 girls or guys behind them, because I didn't, but I mean, this tournament, they are the most competitive people, so they're continuing going. They're not like, they're not here to socialize, basically. But
I never seen anybody sitting around the tables.
a few after the
No, it's just-
round. But,
A lot of our local people were
Yeah.
sitting around the tables.
There's
I
22
sat
Mitchell
around there-
guys.
I sat around there last night, and when it wasn't over, but everybody almost left. There was just a few of us sitting out there, and you're right, there was one
Well,
group that
six
sat
packs
there.
of beer going out, put it that way.
But either way, it's a great event. But I mean, the water thing is just, I don't know how long, when you were there, did they do the water coolers for state events? They've been doing it for
I just
ever.
said, guys, take them. I made them. I asked them. I mean, 'cause then
Just
they're
keep
on
them away from the
course. Then they
clubhouse,
get thirsty.
basically.
Now there's no water out there anymore, so I understand all that. But keep them off the clubhouse.
And the other thing is they're using
Parents are grabbing them.
our ice.
Everybody's grabbing them.
They almost need to put a sign on there then, on the cooler.
Yeah, because
Contestants only or something like that. I mean, if everybody's coming through there grabbing water on it.
no, I wouldn't say they all were. I mean, I still sold waters to spectators and stuff.
But I agree with you, 1 in 10,
That's just baloney.
that's probably the biggest hit right there.
I think I told a few of you, I mean, the best thing for me in the clubhouse was when we had that hour rain delay on Saturday. Then everybody was buying food and burgers, and we were grilling in the rain for them.
So there was 2 people that were happy it was raining.
Yeah, it was me.
I sat out through the cart for about an hour and a half, just by
Just
myself.
loving it.
But I mean, Mark was there on Sunday. I mean, it's cool just seeing the players, how they go about their warm up, their business, to go out to the golf course and seeing them come in. And, it was cool to see.
Well, you weren't here at the beginning of the meeting, but Jeff expressed, along with the rest of us, just expressed the job that you did and how many things you had going on. And like Jason said, you're kind of the face of the golf course and the clubhouse and everything. We're proud of our golf course. We're proud of how you and Jason and how everything was handled this weekend. Just awesome job, like Jeff said, attaboys.
And it was all good. I mean, there was tons of compliments to me, to the volunteers, to Jason. You guys know all the courses. It's perfect right now. So, yeah, it was good. Last thing me and Jason did was give each other a handshake at the end of the day yesterday, so it was good.
So when's the next time a tournament like this comes around?
October.
No, I mean.
Oh, well,
I mean,
like
So
an SCJ event.
Yeah.
They'll contact us. This one didn't come about till
Oh,
February,
yeah, it was late.
but usually they have their schedule done in the fall.
I think.
And we might get skipped over. I mean, it's not like, since we hosted this one, they might not come to us every single
This was
year.
the first time ever.
So, I
It is.
mean, we might not host an SCJ event next year, maybe even the following year. It's just dependent on what their their rotation through the state is, what courses they want to cover and stuff.
Lakeview typically gets a fair amount of them. I mean, it's not, they,
That's why we accepted this one, was knowing that we could potentially have the course in disarray for a couple years, that we thought this would be a good time to accept that request, and then knowing that it may be a couple years till we get things healed up, but to do it again.
So there's no set thing. We're going to host the state juniors, we're going to host the state couples, we're going to host the state two-man. I mean, there's no set calendar. They just, in the fall, they go through their scheduling.
The biggest advantage that we have is location. Location. I mean, there's really good courses in Sioux Falls, there's really good courses in Rapid City, and you get between that, you know, and they host them in Sioux Falls, the Rapid City people may not come, same vice versa out there. So it's, location's really good. Anything else?
Other than that, I can, just coming up here for a few events that we do have coming up this week. The Pepsi Cola 2 Women's coming up this Wednesday. It was supposed to be last Wednesday, we moved it. And a few other fundraisers coming up, the Emory High School fundraiser, a Farm Credit Services tournament. We're still slated to airify, or Jason is, the 22nd, 23rd. Maybe you didn't want to bring that up. I don't know. It's just on the calendar, but that's all I've got.
Put it on there, advertise it, and do it.
He doesn't want it to. I would want to do that.
it's one of those processes you just hate to do, but it's got to be done.
I do appreciate when you send out your emails, though, and remind us and just say, okay, course is closed.
Yeah, that helps.
And since we're still on the superintendent's report, forward tees scheduled,
We're going to kind of work on them after the AA tournament, so
Okay.
is my general plan right now.
got a game plan?
I think so. I
Okay.
think as long as Kevin Thurman has offered to help a little bit, and as long as I've got the time and everything, I think we can knock off a few of them, and I don't know if we'll get all of them done, but if we get some done, and then, but yeah, I think we've got a way to do them that ain't gonna take too long, and if we can get after it.
Forward tees, are you referring to the ladies' tees?
Forward tees.
Forward tees.
It's not ladies tees.
Forward, okay.
New terminology.
Okay, gotcha.
Red tees.
I didn't behind on that. Okay,
If you call them women's tees, you'll never play them.
gotcha.
We're supposed to play by the yardage.
I wanted to play them today on 5. 5, they had the yellow tees back where the white tees kind of are.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Couple guys drove right up and they were,
There's
the red
nothing
tees
there.
are, they wouldn't wear the yellows, you know.
I was just teed out there anyway.
Chances, well, they're forward tees now.
Chances are pretty good with women moving back.
And those tees that we had out, or the flags we had out this spring with the blue flag, up a little ways, that's the approximate location where we're thinking, so.
We played it, it's a real, it's fun.
It totally changes the golf course, so.
I'm with you, buddy.
Okay, our next meeting will be September 12th, 5:45 right here, and we are adjourned.
Good job, Jeff.
Thank you.